What's up, guys? Average Kiwi Guy here. How y'all doing? So I just got back from Murder on the Orient Express, and I mean, I know it's not getting the greatest, ratings and all the rest of from critics and all that, but I don't really listen to them all too much. I go, I went with an open mind. I didn't, know anything about it. I've never read the book. I've never read the Agatha Christie books or anything like that. So I never knew. So I can't speak to any of that. I just don't know. So I went in completely blind, because it looked somewhat interesting on the trailers. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go see it. I'm going to do a review, and I'm going to see what it's like, And I had a good time. I had a good time watching it. Is it a perfect movie? God, no. But it's got a great cast. It's got, it's a somewhat interesting, story. It's good. I thought it was actually kind of good to watch. I had a good time. So obviously this movie is very spoiler heavy, and I can't really talk too much about, obviously who did it, and who got killed, who's this and that. I can't speak to that too much. So obviously I'll try and keep the first part spoiler free as possible, and the second part we'll get, with the spoiler section, we'll get into all that. But I'll give my overall thoughts on the film in the non-spoiler section. Okay? So, and I do recommend this. I do recommend, if you want to go see this film, don't look up spoilers. Don't look up what it's about, who did it, who did this, and all the rest of it. Don't. Just go in blind. Go in blind. It's quite interesting, because that way you can see it. You kind of go through the story, with it that way. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it that way. Not knowing. I think it was quite good. Obviously, those who have read the book, you know. So I'm just saying, if those who haven't, go out, don't look at spoilers, don't look at all that stuff. I think it's better to go see it blind, okay? Even if you can't remember what happened in the book, go see it blind. I think it's a better experience. The way this movie plays out, it's an old school detective murder mystery sort of movie, and I dig that. I dig those mystery movies where they're trying to figure out what happened, twists and turns, and little bit of evidence, follow to this person, everyone looks at that person, but it's not that person. Like, I like that. It's something that I quite dig. Obviously, like Sherlock Holmes and all that, I like all that. This movie is essentially, Sherlock Holmes, but without all the action, without all this, all that type of thing. Obviously, there is a great cast in this. I think the cast is fantastic. A lot of these, very star-studded cast with, huge acting, resumes on this entire thing. Kenneth Branagh, I think Bing's Braun, the way that you say his thing. I'm sorry if I say that wrong. He's director and the lead actor in this, so take that as what you will. And he was good. I thought he was kind of, funny in places, all that. I've seen, like, some people said, like, he's not quite what the book entails and stuff like that. They've changed him a little bit. And some people didn't quite like the way he was playing, but I thought he was funny. I thought he was, kind of, that maybe he's a little too Sherlock Holmes. I think that's what a lot of people might say. But, his Hercule Poirot, I think it's Poirot. Again, I'm sorry, I'm bad with names, okay? But Hercule Poirot, was good. He was interesting. You could see it, sort of playing out in his head and him connecting it all up, and he made it entertaining. He made it, an interesting, thing to watch, and I quite liked it. And then obviously you go down through the entire, cast list. I mean, you got Penelope Cruz, William Dafoe, Judi Dench, Johnny Depp, Josh Gad, Derek Jacobi, Leslie Odom Jr., Michelle Pfeiffer, Daisy Ridley, Tom Bateman, Manuel Garcia Rulfo, and Olivia Colman. Like, that's the main cast. And, like, there are legends in acting, in this cast. And it was really good, and they played well. The only issue I have is that a lot of it was centered around, Perot. And he's, I felt like, they have this great cast that they kind of should have focused a little bit on the, the suspects a little bit more. Maybe sat down with them, let you see like how, way they tick, the way they actually, why they're, why they do this, why they do that, stuff like that. A real good interrogation where, it's not often that I say that a movie should be a little bit longer, but this was just under 2 hours. I felt like if they had pushed it out just a little bit longer, it would have helped, just develop the characters a little bit, get to know them a little bit more. So you can start like putting it together yourself, not having, Perot go, oh, it's this, oh, it's that, all the time. Where if you could have, allowed the characters to kind of, show it themselves, it would have been quite nice. Just utilize the cast, utilize that cast a little more. I think it would have made the movie better. And I think people probably would have gotten off it a little bit, allowed it to, play out the way it did a little bit better. Also, the camera work's a little iffy in places. Obviously, being on a train, it's a little bit confined. They have to find ways to shoot in a confined space, which is tricky. I can see that. But there have been, movies and stuff that have done it in a good ways. So they could have looked to that a little bit more. But I think they wanted to do these wide sweeping shots of them like kind of moving through the train. It plays well in places, but not in others. There are like scenes where it's obviously very green screen, where I felt like, you could have been on location a little bit for that. Like, it's just not, it was a little bit, suspect in places. The snow was a little bit false looking in places, which is not really acceptable in a modern film, like especially one with, decent budget behind it and stuff like that. So this is all nitpicky stuff. It's just stuff that, I noticed and then obviously seen as well. Like, it's just, yeah. But, for me, it didn't take away from the story. It didn't take away from the thing that was happening and, the performances that were going on from the actors. Kenneth Branagh's, performance was great. I thought it was really good. It was an interesting lead. Then you go down like, Penelope Cruz, she wasn't in it all as much, and she plays quite a confined, so kind of quiet character. William Dafoe plays kind of an interesting character. I quite liked him. His character swap and changes quite a bit. Johnny Depp, I mean, he's Johnny Depp. He's going to play, like most things. He wasn't Captain Jack Sparrow this entire movie, okay? He wasn't that. So, he's that sort of gangster type character in this movie. So, but he's still, Johnny Depp. Michelle Pfeiffer, I think she had a really fun, she had kind of a baddie, sort of funny type character who was a little, she's loud. She's loud. She's like, a lot of people like kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. She's kind of the annoying one on the train a little bit. A bit of a floozy in places, but she develops as a character, and I quite liked her as well. Daisy Ridley, I thought Daisy Ridley, she did a good job. They played her quite intellectually, and she was one of the more focused on characters as well. She was good. She was really good. I liked seeing her outside of Star Wars, obviously. Seeing her get out of Star Wars so she doesn't get typecasted there was a good thing. So I think she's doing good. But I am looking forward to seeing her in Star Wars in about, where are we at now? We're almost a month away. So that I'm a big Star Wars nerd. So, and then you go down through everyone else. Like they all had their good spots. They all had their good scenes. Judi Dench, obviously, she's going to have her great scenes, and she was this old sort of princess, Russian princess, and she's what you would expect Judi Dench to play as a princess, very demanding, very that old school royalty, and I liked it. I just kind of wanted more of it. I wanted a little more of that. I think would have been a better thing. Obviously, they play into that it's 1930s, so it has that, sort of, the 30s feel, which a lot of people like. I quite like it. They're in, they're in Jerusalem for a little part. Istanbul. They give that old, the 30s feel. They do it quite well. The clothes, the mustaches, and all that. It's cool. I like it. Obviously, they deal with a little bit of the problems that were happening throughout that time. Within society and all that. They dance around it a little bit. It's not a big focal point. It's not something they hammer down. They have the odd conversation about it, but they really wanted to focus it more on the actual mystery that was happening. So, it's not that type of movie that's going to deal with those problems. It's more about, it's a mystery movie. It's a, murder mystery. They're not going to focus on that too much. So it was okay. It was okay. But yeah, I mean, like I said, it was, for me, it was an enjoyable movie. It was enjoyable. It's not nowhere near perfect. It's not going to win lots of awards or anything like that. But it's, an interesting murder mystery movie. I don't think it's something that you could go back and see like multiple times. Because obviously, once you know, and it's not the same. So for me also, like, if you already know, maybe it won't be as good to you. So take that as what you will. If you're quite happy to go into a movie where you kind of know what's gonna happen, then go ahead. But if you're someone who, look, I already know the conclusion to this, so the movie's already ruined for me, then maybe not for you. But, for me, who went in completely blind, I've never read the books, I didn't know anything about what was gonna happen or anything like that. It was an enjoyable movie. I had a good time. I thought it was, interesting. They had good twists and turns. I liked how everything kind of, linked up together at the end. The acting was solid. It was good. The good performances. Like I said, I would like a little more from the other, like I said, I would have liked a little more from the other the cast, the other, the suspects, a little more from them would have been nice. Just a little more time with them would have been good. But I had a good time. And I think if you're someone who just wants to go watch a movie with a bit of a mystery, a bit of a 30s feel to it, that old school detective, not too much action, like there's a little bit, but not too much, you'll enjoy it. You'll enjoy it. It's not gonna be that Inception like mystery movie like where everything's like within something, and this something. No, it's not that. It's old school. It's old school, and I like that. I like how it's it's complex enough, but it's not bringing in like it's just silly over the top reasons why all this stuff is happening. It's all very logical by the end of it, and it ends up being kind of interesting, watch in the end. I do think that they might potentially go into some of the other stories. Like, they sort of set up the end, him doing more cases. So, potential for, more movies down the line. Maybe. I think it'll depend on how this one goes. But we're not surprised. Everyone's doing multi-movie things. So, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised. But yeah, worth going and seeing. Yeah, I think if you want to go see something new at the movies, I think, go see it. I think if you are into sort of the old school mystery type thing, I don't think it's groundbreaking. It's not like Thor Ragnarok or anything. Like Thor Ragnarok for me is a must see. You have to go to it. This is like if you have time, if you want to, maybe date night, something like that. I don't know. Something. You just want to go out and see something. Kind of mystery with a good cast, with an interesting story. This is for you, but it's not something that I think is like Thor Ragnarok level for a more recent thing. But yeah. So I'm sorry if this seems a little bit beating around the bushes. I can't get into the spoiler stuff. I can't get into the spoiler stuff, not yet. Obviously, we're going to get to the spoiler section now. So thank you to everyone who's watching, who obviously will be leaving now if you have not seen the movie. if you are planning on seeing it and you don't want to know the spoilers and stuff like that, please turn the video off now. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. All the best. Thank you very much. But spoilers are incoming, so fair warning, okay? All right, because this will ruin the movie. This will ruin the movie for you. All right. All right, so who died? Who did it? All the rest of it. That's the big thing for this movie. And Ratchet was obviously the one who was killed. That's Johnny Depp's character. So the sort of gangster, you know, he said that he sold art and all the rest of it, and you know, he's worried that the Italians that he sold art to, which were fakes, you know, he's selling fakes to mobsters and all the rest of it. So he thought the mob was coming after them, but in the end, all of them did it. All of them. I know. It's not. No, the butler didn't do it. Everyone and the butler did it. You know, and I was sort of like, okay, like I get and when they explain it, it makes more sense. Like you're like, okay, like everything's connected. So Ratchet ends up being this guy called Cassetti, and he was the one who kidnapped this little girl, Daisy Armstrong, who is this, I think, basically a famous family's little girl. You know, Colonel Armstrong, I think, was, you know, famous in the war, you know, famous pilot. And he had his wife, who was the daughter of a famous actress. So they're big deal, right? This is like celebrity family. And Daisy Armstrong was kidnapped by Cassetti, I should say. And what happens is, they pay the ransom. They give Cassetti the ransom, but Cassetti kills her. And it devastates the family. Absolutely devastates it. Because mother, she ends up dying. She was pregnant, sends her into premature labor, and she dies. They can't save either one of them. And that means the entire Armstrong family is gone. And this drives, you know, this Colonel Armstrong completely, nuts, and he just shoots himself. Like, he's lost everything. Lost everything. And what happens is everyone on that train was linked to the Armstrongs in some way. So you had McQueen, who was Ratchet's like assistant. He was, you know, helping him out with the money. He was the accountant. He was the guy that did all this stuff. He was the son of the lawyer that was convicting he was on the case. He was the prosecutor. And he ended up convicting the wrong person, who was a French woman. And she ends up killing herself because of it. You know, she ends up just like, she can't handle it because she's falsely accused. She's going to prison. Everyone hates her. So she kills herself. Then you had Marquez, who was this sort of car dealer and stuff like that. He's sort of setting up these, he sells cars and all the rest of it. So he's a car salesman. And, you know, he's always talking. He's like, oh, yeah, I'm this, he's making it big and stuff like that. You know, American dream. He ends up being the chauffeur for the Armstrong family. And it was the Colonel Armstrong, who was the one who gave him the money for him to start his business, who started everything for him. Then you had Masterman, who was like the butler. And he worked for the Armstrongs. He was, you know, part of the staff there, and he was also with Armstrong in his military days. So, you know, he was the butler for them. You know, he knew that family. Then you had the doctor, Dr. Arbuthnot. It's strange. I'm sorry I get this wrong. He was, you know, a doctor, and you know, you see that he's in they're sort of in a relationship with Daisy Ridley's character, the Countess. He was the best friend of the Colonel Armstrong, and it was because of Colonel Armstrong that he was able to get the education to become a doctor. Because at that time, he would have never gotten that education. He would have never got the chance to become a doctor. So that was big. Then you get the Countess, Daisy Ridley's character. She was, you know, a countess in Baghdad for some family, but then she's moving back, or she's going to another job. And she was actually the countess for Daisy Armstrong, who was the little girl that got captured. So she's related to it all. And that's how she met the doctor. You had the Countess and the Count, who they had this diplomatic immunity, so yeah, you couldn't really do too much with them. But the Countess ended up being the sister of the mother of Daisy, of Sonia, I think Sonia Armstrong. Yeah, so she was the little sister, and she's like completely like she takes some drug to keep her calm and all the rest of it. So she's, her world is completely gone. And the Count, he's, in love with her, so he'll do anything for her to protect her, and he's very violent in this movie. Then you had the princess, and she was a friend of Sonia Armstrong's mother, who was the famous actress, and she was the godmother of either Sonia or Daisy, one of the two. I'm not sure that the way they spoke it in the movie. It says here that it was Sonia, but I could have sworn they said Daisy. But one of the two. So she's very important to the family. She absolutely loved the mother as an actress, and so she ended up being the godmother for Sonia or Daisy. And then her assistant Hildegard, she was the cook. She was the family's cook, the Armstrongs' cook. Then you had the missionary, Greta Osman or something. That was Penelope Cruz's character. She was the family's nurse, and she was supposed to be looking after Daisy when she was taken, and she had taken a little too much to drink, and she feels very guilty about, when Cassetti came in, she couldn't actually stop him, and notices that she has boxers, blisters and stuff like that, marks all over her hands because she's learning how to fight. But she's she's turned to religion and a missionary and all the rest of it because she feels like she's got to make amends for what she did, because it was her fault that Daisy got taken. So that they're all connected. The train conductor, it says father here, but I think it was the brother. They changed it to the brother in this one to make him a bit younger. Was the brother of the French woman that was convicted wrongly for the murder. So he has a stake in it. And then the professor, who's pretending to be like this Austrian professor, but he ends up being a cop. Cyrus Hardman, he was a cop that was working the case and actually fell in love with the French woman that got pinned on, and so he has a stake in it, and he's like running protection for Ratchet or for Cassetti. Then it's all tied together by the widow, who's Michelle Pfeiffer's character. She ends up being the mother of Sonia, so she's the famous actress. So she's got a wig on and everything, and so all of them are linked to this Armstrong case, and they all did it. They all did it. They all covered for each other. They all took a turn stabbing. There was 12 stabs, and they all stabbed, all of them. So they all killed him. All of them. I'm sure by like the second or third stab, he was already dead. But, that's why when they were analyzing it and stuff, all the cuts were different. Everyone's using different hands. It was like a mad frenzy of everything. They were cut deeper. Ones was like slightly sliced and stuff. They couldn't understand. Perot couldn't understand why that was happening, but it ended up being all of them. All of them were doing it. So, but then it comes to the point where I got a little bit miffed with it. And I know this is kind of in the book and stuff where it kind of just lets them all go. I understand they're like, is it okay to murder someone who deserves to be murdered for what he's done? I don't know. It's a different time. Like it's an old school detective thing. So this stuff, it's a question that you ask yourself when you come out of the movies, and I get why they did that. And obviously, it's in the book. You can't do too much when it's in a book, but I was like, it's a little bit of a cop out. Like I felt like if they had they had a bit bigger scene at the end with them and the whole group of them. Like I know they had the big scene at the conclusion of the investigation, but when Perot left the train, I thought maybe they could have had something there. But he sort of just, he obviously talks about the scales of justice and all the rest of it, and he can't be perfect, and you just got to accept that it's all perfect, but it's not going to be perfect. I don't know. I felt a little bit like, it all doesn't really amount to anything. Like, it's sort of like, Cassidy's dead. Everyone gets to move on with their lives. But yeah, like I said, that's really the big spoilery part. I mean, there's not too much else. Like, it's the mystery, and that's really it. Because the performances from everyone is good. I liked it, and like I said, I would have liked a little more from the suspects. I think if you had a bit better, interrogation and all the rest of it, I think would have been a better, just it would have been a better thing. It would have, you would get to see that, how these characters think and how, what's going on in their heads. Why are they doing this stuff? And then when it got to the end, when you realize everyone has a stake in it and everyone's doing this thing, then I felt like it would have been maybe even a bigger, like, sort of thing. But I had a good time. Like, just seeing the mystery unfold and, following the clues and stuff. Maybe it was, made a bit simpler so that everyone can get it. So it's not like it's too complex or anything. I don't know. I just feel like maybe if the movie's slightly longer, just by like 20 minutes or so, I think would have been okay. This is under 2 hours. So I think if it's a bit slightly longer, they could have explored that stuff just a little bit more. And it would have been okay. But yeah. Worth going and seeing if you got time, if you got the spare money. But, obviously it's something that I do recommend if you don't know the story, if you don't know, haven't read the books or anything like that, and you don't know who does what. Obviously if you're watching this now, I'm sorry, but I did warn you, and there is a little Kiwi, like over here, that's saying spoilers, so I'm sorry, but yeah. I do recommend you go and see it without knowing what's going to happen, because it was far more interesting that way. But yeah. Alright guys, that's it for us. Thank you very much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Peace. Bye.